3, 2, 1.
My name is Nick Hill. I'm the self-proclaimed beer wizard of Pixel Brewing Company in Fargo, North Dakota. This place started as a dream of mine around 7 or 8 years ago. I was at a place in Denver called One Up. It's an arcade bar, and I walked in. I was immediately floored with, I can drink beer, I can play games from my childhood, like how cool is this? I thought to myself, that'd be really cool if Fargo had a place like this. The atmosphere that we want at Pixel is we want to have a social atmosphere where you can come play games with your friends and have fun. The toxicity in playing online games nowadays, and I think you lose something when you don't have that face-to-face contact with your buddies and stuff, right? And part of that is why we bought the Killer Queen machine. And Killer Queen is a 10-player game. There's 2 teams of 5. It's very hard to master, but easy to learn, and it is ridiculous amounts of fun. Every night I hear people hooping and hollering on that machine because it's so much fun. So around Killer Queen, we run League Night. Every Monday I turn the game on free to play, and I want to get the scene built up with as many people as possible. So that's why I put it on free to play and try to encourage an atmosphere you can come and learn and have a good time. 2 weekends ago, we had a tournament where players from Minneapolis, from their Killer Queen scene, came up, and we had a big tournament called the Barry Border Battle. It was super fun. We had trophies, and everyone had a blast. If I can try to create that every day, that's what I want to do. The building that we're in right now, the historic Union building, was the first building that I wanted. Like, I fell in love with it, the exposed brick. We wanted to have a feel of the Foot Clan's hideout in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's what we were looking for, and this building had it. This building was an old cold storage unit. I believe this was part of the boiler room. So it's 15-foot ceilings, I think. We're looking at roughly 14 feet wide, and it's 36 feet deep. Originally, we were going to do a lot of the work ourselves. To get into this building, we ended up using a general contractor to do most of the fit up. So they did all of the permitting with the city as far as construction goes. It took about 2.5 years from when John Paul and I greenlit to opening our doors. You know, one really unique thing that we did is we found a local street artist from Bismarck, North Dakota, who was very, very skilled in street graffiti, and he did the murals on our walls, and that took about 5 months. So if you're looking at doing something unique like that, you got to make sure that you have the proper time to get that accomplished. We needed to keep costs low, so there wasn't any major structural changes. This building's also on the National Historic Register, so there's not a lot of things that you can do structurally unless something's dilapidated and needs to be fixed. So we have 4 5-barrel 4-in-1 BIACs that we bought from Brewha. We try to brew twice a week. Sometimes that doesn't always happen. Sometimes there's a delay, slow fermentation, whatever it is. Yeah, so why I chose to go with Brewha is it closely mimicked the process I was doing home brewing. I felt for us it was the right cost. It has a low footprint, so it saved us on having to rent more space. And for sanitation, I don't like having to use dangerous chemicals after every single brew. And when you're boiling in one vessel and the process takes place in all one vessel, sanitation is less of a worry. Obviously, you still want to make sure you're cleaning out your beer stone every couple brews, but not having to do it after every brew is a huge benefit. I am anywhere from 45 to 50 batches. I've had 0 spoiled batches. I've dumped 0 batches. There was one I was going to dump, which was user error. I let fermentation temperature get away from me, and I ended up having customers that liked it. It fit their taste profile. It didn't fit mine. So that's, you know, a good thing is, as a brewer, like if it's not up to your standard, always hold yourself to high standards, but give your customers a chance to review your product. And if they don't like it, then don't serve it. But if people, they like it, serve it. You know, just because you don't like it doesn't mean other people don't. I didn't really put a whole lot of thought into setting up because everything's on wheels. I'm more of a, let's put things out there and let's see how it works. And the fact that the BICs came on wheels gave me that flexibility that, hey, if I got to move this tank because the HVAC guys installed the drain copper piping too low and it's encroaching on my ceiling, I can do that because they have wheels and I can move them. What I would really recommend to anybody opening up a brewery is to go into a parking lot, grab some duct tape, and make like a fake brewery with duct tape where you're gonna have your tanks, how big your space is, where your gantry is going to be, or your forklift, whatever it is, and then just do a fake brew. Walk and pretend like you're brewing, and figure out like how many times are you going to have to go into the other room that you have to walk 25 feet, or is there a way you can cut that 25 feet down to 5 feet? I know it seems like a lot of work, but after 50 brews, there's so many times where I wish my 3-compartment sink was in this room. As far as our brewing process goes, fill up to 145 gallons. I then heat up to strike temperature, which can be anywhere from 158 degrees to 163, and then adjust to mash temperature slowly afterwards. I fill a grain bag procured from Brewha full of anywhere from 300 to 450 pounds of grain. Use a forklift to then mash in and a grain paddle to ensure there's no dough balls. While we're mashing, I set up the pump and hosing to Vorloff, and I usually do that 30 minutes into mash. I do that for about 15 minutes or until the wort is clear, whichever comes first. I find this prevents from getting stuck mash, and then you don't have to use rice hulls. I have had a few stuck mashes. I think it was more along the lines I was Vorloffing too early in the mash, and I wasn't putting my base malts on the bottoms. Ever since I switched to Vorloffing, after 30 minutes into the mash, and only for a short period of time, and putting the base malts on the bottom, I haven't had a stuck mash since. Then I mash out at 173 degrees. As soon as that's reached, I slowly lift the colander out, ensuring that the colander doesn't pull too much water out to expose the elements. So I sparge using the jacket of the 4-in-1 to heat the water up to sparge temperature, which I sparge at 173. After I've reached anywhere from 175 to 180 gallons, I've kind of been experimenting with, trying to find the right ratios. I then move up to boil. I have been in the habit of, I have an alarm set at 200 degrees. I then scoop all the protein off the top to prevent boil over. Another technique I've used is I've actually turned the heating elements off at 200 degrees and let it sit for about 20 minutes to let the protein break dissipate. But then that's 20 more minutes that, if you want to cut down on your brew day, you can scoop the protein out to prevent boil over. I then use the hop splatters procured from Brewha to hop on hop schedule. I stir the hops to ensure they don't float on top, and I can get all of the oils extracted for proper bitterness and aroma depending on when you hop. Cool down then starts after your boil. I do a lot of flame out additions because I like hop aroma. Who doesn't? A cool down starts. Right now I am running water through the jacket anywhere from 45 degrees to 55 degrees depending on the weather. The cool down can take anywhere from, I think the shortest one I've had was an hour and a half to 2 hours. I haven't had any off flavors from dropping down to full temperature right away yet in the 45 plus batches I've done. So I've just chosen to continue doing that, even though it might not be, the industry best practice. I also have a plate chiller that I don't fully utilize yet. I just haven't got a system properly set up for that. That's still in development. I let temperature get down to about 75 degrees on the temperature controller, and there's going to be temperature stratification because of the location of the probe. So when I get that down to 70, I'll then dump some trub. Usually this is where I dump most of the trub until it's not clear, but it starts getting light. That's when I know that I should stop, so I'm not wasting beer with little trub. Then I blast it with oxygen. Depending on the yeast strain that I'm pitching, I'll oxygenate anywhere from 8 to 12 ppm, but if I'm making my New England IPA, I'll oxygenate up to 20 ppm to help ensure that we get that hazy thing that everybody loves. Then I turn the oxygen off, let it sit for another half hour or so, and then finish dumping trub. And then I pitch yeast, and I use Imperial yeast out of Portland, Oregon. My experience, they're the highest quality, best customer service. They overnight yeast, so you're always ensured fresh, viable yeast for every batch. One thing too is I'm trying to start a yeast harvesting program. It's very, very infant stages right now. I'm carbonating in the tanks right now. I have a regulator set up for each vessel that regulates the CO2 that's going into it, and I just force carbonate through the top. I don't use a stone or anything at this time. And that process can take, depending on the beer style, I've noticed that some beers carbonate quickly than others. I don't have any explanation for it, it's just what I've noticed. Yeah, so I have a local farmer that comes and picks up my spent grain. They have a chicken and cattle farm. I actually run it through the hallway down through the parking garage. I've loaded on with a forklift and away they go. It takes 2-3 minutes. Originally, before I had found that relationship, we had been going and dumping at the compost heap, and that was 15 minutes out of our day, and that stuff adds up. The kegging process for us is I bought a silicone hose with a beer nut and a 1.5 tri-clamp from Brewha, and I bought the Pro Line manual keg filler from Microbrewery. So I fill each keg individually directly from the fermenter. The fermenter is pressurized to anywhere from 12 to 15 psi, and I pressurize each of my kegs to 5 psi. Those kegs are taken to my cold storage, my tax-determined beer cooler. I then have a 4-tap system that I purchased from Micromatic that runs the FOBs. So when you're changing out kegs, you don't get over foam. I'm running a 35 draw length to the tap room upstairs. I'm of the frame of mind that brewing is part science and part art. You should know the math behind things, but you shouldn't dwell on it. If you're feeling one day, hey, I want to add some extra Citra in this, or let me put some extra chocolate malt in this, I think that's something that you as a brewer should do, if you're able to. And I mean, I use Beersmith as a program to help design my recipes to get me in the ballpark. And then I might be feeling funky that day, and I might try something a little bit different. So keeping a good balance between science and art, I think, is partially what keeps me sane, because I was told there'd be no math, right? So, is it worth it to open up your own brewery? Yes and no, right? I would say yes if every day could be like the Berry Border Battle and everyone was having a good time and everything was great. Yeah, it absolutely is worth it, but not all of those days are gonna be like that. You're gonna have a day where you dump 400 pounds of grain on the floor and then spend 2 hours shoveling and cleaning it up, and you needed to be somewhere 2 hours ago. Those days are gonna happen, and those are the days that'll test your patience, is working through the things that go wrong, and things are going to go wrong. You just have to know how to fix it. Having good vendor partners in place to help you through that is crucial. It's been crucial to my success. I love hearing the hoot and hollering. I love when someone takes a drink and they're like, fuck, that's good. Like, that makes me feel good. I mean, if you're opening up a brewery to get rich, no, don't do that. You do it because you love people and you want to bring happiness and joy to their lives and help them. Everyone has tough days. Everyone has their own problems, and being able to have an outlet for people to help deal with that is kind of why I'm in it.